Okay, I believe we are live. I believe we are live with a new setup, and we are going to make sure the sound is good too real quick here. So if all of you could talk really quick, that'd be awesome. We're going to make sure the sound is good too real quick here. So if all of you could talk really quick, that'd be awesome. We're going to make sure the sound is good too real quick here. So if all of you could talk
coming from
really
somewhere.
quick. Well, yeah, you guys aren't talking. I asked you to talk. Perfect. Talking.
We were just thrown by the feedback.
Yeah. Perfect. Talking.
We were just thrown by the feedback. Still getting that feedback. Still throwing us just a little bit.
Just testing it. Just testing. All right. We have and in order to have an ARM Kubernetes cluster, we have to be able to build ARM images, and we run into that constantly. So we have a work center, and Sam put something together to kind of walk us through that. So I'm going to hand it to Sam to give the introduction to the topic today. And
yeah,
it's going to be great.
Thank you, Dan. So yeah, kind of thinking about this, I go to the meme of just throw a container at it, right? Containers are supposed to solve everything. Just put it in a container, it can run anywhere. Except for ARM, you know? Having said that, it's not really a new software problem, you know? When we're used to, you know, having our ARM machines, we're all Mac guys, so obviously we can't go run an exe on our Mac. Same kind of concept. Just slightly different. So what we're going to look at today is kind of what you might see if you run into some issues of trying to run an image that isn't built for ARM on an ARM cluster. And then just some different troubleshooting tips, and maybe how to resolve those. Yeah. So I think, unless anybody else has anything, we can probably jump to the screen share. I can't see the stream, so we're already there, then here we are. Yep. And give me a wink when it's up.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's me. I think that's the right one.
Again, I can't see it, so we'll go with that. So specifically, we're going to be talking about Docker images. There's obviously other container runtimes, so more to look into for that. But this is a great place to start. Docker does have really good documentation on how to build images for ARM. At Devs Operative, we have a cluster that is running on Raspberry Pis, so we have an ARM architecture. So everything we run needs to be compatible with that. And so we face a few different things. One, our own website has to be ARM compatible, and then anything we want to pull in and use. So we have different tools, Argo, Harbor coming up in a few streams from now, and then a tool called BotCube. And so a lot of the experience that I've had personally has been show off. BotCube is somewhat of a monitoring tool. So you can set it up to send different platforms notifications. So in our case, we're using Discord. And you can see that it lets you know once it's installed on the cluster, it can, populate messages in a channel and key in on different events. Another feature is you can run kubectl. So kind of the journey that we've had using BotCube is when we first started looking at it, probably 6 months ago or so, they didn't have an ARM image. And what we had to do is actually, I pulled down the repository, and this is going to be different for every different thing, but most repositories have their build configs within that repository. So I pulled down BotCube, and I started poking around. There's probably going to be a Docker file. In this case, I think there's down here. And so a couple things to think about when you're trying to build an image for ARM. one, you have usually your app or your piece of software. So if that's something that gets compiled, it needs to be compilable for ARM. And then any other artifacts that you might be pulling in and as a bin. So that's what we can see here is BotCube has kubectl as a dependency basically, and so that dependency has to be ARM compatible as well. So I was able to get BotCube compiled for ARM and an image for that, and then they actually had made a recent change. So this version pulls in kubectl from a different source, and so that was causing our kubectl commands to fail. And normally when that happens, you'll see this error right here. So if you've ever tried to run a non-ARM image on ARM, you've seen this. Then just a few times. Yeah.
Slab is saying you're on mute.
I don't think so. Check the stream.
It says can't hear McCracken. Can't hear McCracken.
One moment, please, while we get McCracken's voice to work. But what he was explaining is basically, our cluster is built with Raspberry Pis, and those Raspberry Pis have an ARM processor. So our container images, all the executables in those images need to be able to be compiled for ARM, so the ARM processor can understand those executables. I think is the gist of what you had just said, hopefully.
For a Slab, can you hear him? Did you hear him just now or no? Right? Where's LBC? All right, I'm gonna actually flip your audio. 1 second. Speak.
Rough speaking. You say it, and I think I'm the dog.
Uh-huh.
How about now?
How about now? Hey, Slab 12. Appreciate you in the chat. I'm gonna have a drink of Tianguin Yin, 1987 aged.
I can hear you now.
Cool.
Good afternoon, internet. Good afternoon, Slab, and the members of the chat. I had a question for Sam. It was brilliant. It was freaking brilliant. If I'm keeping up, I'll try to be short. If I'm keeping up, we have Docker images that are going to be running on a containerized environment on our arm64 processor Linux environment on our Raspberry Pis. Those images contain binaries. Those binaries themselves are going to be running against our technical stuff. And so those individual binaries on the images are the things that have to be compiled for ARM. It's more of that and less, wow, I need my Docker image to be ARM compatible, let's say. Is that about right? Because for some reason, I had that lodged in my head for the longest time when we were working on this, 2 years ago or whatever. But I think finally today, if you're going to tell me I have it right, and it really doesn't matter about the Docker image, it matters about the content, which would make sense to me. I'm going to feel great. I feel great about it.
I think it's yes.
Okay.
for the most part, right? Like, obviously, you know, your executable is what you need to be able to run. I don't know all of the magic of what a couple different things. So to look at it, Docker's solution to this is Docker Buildx, and that uses QEMU. So this is a virtualization software, and what it does is it basically creates a container, a running container that will be that virtual environment of, let's say Linux ARM. So, they kind of talk about here, and you probably can't read it, but
okay.
So Docker creates this container for you, and then it will build your Docker file into an image inside of that virtual environment.
So it's kind of both.
So it's kind of both. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
That's a really good question. Very good question. Could definitely look into that more. If I go back right to BotCube, so this is kind of what I was talking about, right? They thought they had made their image available to ARM users, but I think what they had done was they just made their they did the Docker Buildx essentially, but you also have to have your artifact compiled for ARM. So in this case, it's a Go app. So Go has different ways of, producing that final artifact.
Right.
So I came in, I found the make file, and I looked at here. They use the make file to build that artifact. The Docker file just copies the artifact, and there it's in the image.
Yeah.
The make file is what actually produced that final artifact. So there we have that. Talking about Docker Buildx, I think I had that somewhere. I have it over here, right? So this is the page that kind of walks through more, and I don't know if they specifically answer that question, but we'll just look at this a little bit more, I think. So Docker Buildx is that solution for creating that virtual environment that you can then build for different platforms. And so by default, I think when you're doing a Docker build, the Docker desktop app that you're using just defaults to whatever architecture your computer itself is running on. But if you look at Docker Buildx LS, that kind of lists your Docker builders. So these are the images that would be that QEMU virtualized instance to build certain things. So I think now when you install it, you don't have to do anything different. And actually to install it, I don't remember, if it just comes with Docker now, with the Docker CLI, or if the first time you run Docker Buildx, if it installs it. But if you do Docker Buildx LS, you can see that the default Docker Buildx builder is able to build these different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can change to change it to the default right here. And then if we come down, once you have that Docker Buildx virtual environment created or ready to use, then everything's back to normal essentially. So you can see right here that the only difference in what you would normally do with a Docker build is you're doing a Docker Buildx build, and then you're specifying the platforms that you want to use. And I guess another thing to note is there are a couple other flags. Whether you want to push your built image that you built inside of that running container, if you want to push it to your local repository, or if you want to push it out to the container registry somewhere else.
Right. I love the power of this because, especially for like an open source project like Argo or I don't know, Cert Manager, whatever, that has an image, and now you can have a single build pipeline that builds for all the different architectures you want to deploy to. I think that's super slick.
I can't remember where I was reading, somewhere in the research I was doing, it also talked about testing. Like before, when you have your app, whatever kind of app it is, and you wanted to make sure, hey, it runs on Linux and it runs on Mac and it runs on Windows, like you'd have to find a Windows machine or buy a Raspberry Pi just so you can test that your executable actually works on ARM, right? But with this, it's all virtualized. You can have a build pipeline that builds all those separate containers and runs some tests in them, with that built container. And, there that, hey, it works for basically everything.
Right. It's like being in the QA department and buying one version of every iPad and iPhone and then testing one website in Safari on it.
Yep. Good luck.
Not that I've ever seen that done.
Right.
You hate to see it.
That would be awful.
One quick question. That definitely happened. One quick question on this. If you scroll back up, where we're back on the Docker X bit, where you're specifying the platforms, is that the metadata? Obviously it's going to build for all those platforms, and then also probably stamp that metadata onto the images that get pushed to the registry, right? And then that allows me to know, hey, I want the ARM version, and then that's kind of the key. Okay.
Yep.
Well,
so
yes. Sorry, one thing I will throw in there is that the different container registries that exist out there, like you got Docker Hub, obviously, but then the other one, help me out, Quay?
Container registry.
That's the thing.
Quay, I don't think Quay supports, or at least it didn't until recently, multi-architecture images. So with like Quay, you used to have to at least put like a dash. You'd have to name it differently. But with like Docker Hub, you can have a single name, and then it like behind the scenes figures out what architecture you need. So it's really Docker Hub had it really slick. I think Quay is on its way to that, or it already has, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, so that's a great point, especially if you're looking at some images that maybe aren't maintained as much anymore, to potentially look for that. The most, I think now, container registries will handle that for you. So one, like we can look at, this can be any repo image tag with the Docker Buildx inspect, and it will show you those different manifests. So those basically the different images all under this same tag, right? This is only one image tag. We're gonna feel that in a minute. So there's only that one tag, but underneath that tag, whatever container runtime you're using is able to communicate with the registry in a way that if it's Docker on ARM, it's going to go to Docker Hub and say, hey, give me the ARM image. But you don't, as a user, as an operator, you don't have to specify anything that says, hey, I'm on ARM, I need ARM. So it really simplifies the architecture, because if you have an ARM image, an AMD image in the same cluster, as long as you have an image that works on both, it should run just fine and pull the correct image. And I can show a example of that. So BusyBox, super commonly used utility, just to show where GitHub shows it off. GitHub has these tags right here. So all under the latest tag, we can see that, hey, it's built for a bunch of different things. And then let me pull up this one as well. So BotCube, now you can see so for GitHub container registry, I forget how you get there from the main code, but I think if you go to the packages or deploys on the right, and then click on a specific version, you can get to this page. But then the os/arc, it'll show you that, hey, now they're building it for all these different platforms. And again, you don't have to specify that you want that specific version, but actually this does highlight the fact that you can pull specific ones. So there's different SHAs for each OS platform, all under that same tag though.
I love the improvements they've made to this stuff.
Yeah,
because I remember the old-fashioned days when containers were new. And when I say that as, you know, I know containers have been around for probably longer than I've been alive. But, you know, the modern container, the Docker version of container, the early days were rough. It is so nice and easy now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so
Yeah. So yes, there are a couple more things depending on which way we want to take it.
let's
kind of
take a
already
look at
showed
the
off.
What'd you show off already?
Well, I was going to say like the, you know, from this page, and this gives some examples. We have our GitHub Actions that builds our website. That kind of highlights the Buildx platform. Otherwise, I also want to live apply a newer version of BotCube and hopefully fix the kubectl exec issue.
I love it. What is the, I mean, could we go through like, because I think a lot of people when they write this type of stuff, you know, that they're thinking about their Docker files and things like that. The Docker file doesn't change. I mean, does the Docker file change at all? Here, let me ask you a question. Does the Docker file change at all for this?
No, with an asterisk. So I will show the issue in BotCube that fixed this this kubectl exec format error, right? So if we come over here, you know, it doesn't have to change, but it still comes down to, are the artifacts that you're putting in your container compatible with the platform that you're building it for? It doesn't have anything built in to say like, hey, if I put an exe on my, you know, Linux arm64 image, obviously that's not going to work. But I don't think there's anything in the Docker Buildx build that, you know, raises a flag saying, hey, you know, that's clearly not going to work. So there's a lot going on here, but you can see the version that we're currently running that doesn't work. What it had done is just it was copying the kubectl binary from this bitnami image and putting it in user local bin. And so this bitnami image, it didn't get pulled, at least as a, you know, for the different arcs. And so that is kind of an interesting thing. I know I've read, so if you have multi-stage builds in your container, that gets a little more complicated with doing that sort of thing. You know, like in a perfect world, it would have just worked, because I'm pretty sure if we go out to bitnami kubectl, there's going to be an ARM image. But just with how the multi-stage Docker build works, it didn't, you know, it wasn't able to compute the fact that, hey, we're building for ARM, so that means all my other froms should probably try to pull ARM. But I also read, like, maybe that's not what you need, or maybe that's not what you want, just depending on your use case. So I guess it's kind of something to think about if you have multi-stage Docker builds. But this just highlights again, like, your Docker file doesn't need anything special as long as, you know, you're putting the right stuff in it. So the change was to just, you know, download based on the architecture, the right version of that binary. So that was a roundabout way of saying it doesn't change, if that answers your question, hopefully.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So what's next?
So next we can apply the new version if there isn't any other questions, thoughts, whatever.
Any questions in the chat? I'm only looking at Twitch, not YouTube. Hang on.
I have YouTube up.
Man,
there's
all of our YouTube followers are
any YouTubers.
Not that I see.
So let me find my instructions for this. Okay.
I would like to say the video ninja stuff is working really good.
Good.
This is very cool.
Yeah, look for a future stream on how to stream live, which is still really hard to do, basically.
It is, but
Okay.
we're also, you know, we have three live streams basically going at the same time.
Yeah. Yep. And we're all in technology, so we can figure it out.
One second. So I'm pulling up the installation for BotCube to update that to the latest, which I'm doing off screen because it has a few different secrets in it for actually hooking into our Discord.
Good call.
And it wasn't working, and I was wondering if I had just fat fingered something, but maybe. Okay, I don't know.
While he's doing that, this might, you know, taking a step back, this might be kind of a nuanced stream, actually. You know, because when we were putting together the idea for the stream, we're like, yes, that's a great topic. Now, that's gonna be really good. And I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't know how many people, besides, you know, open source maintainers and contributors, would necessarily care about building an ARM image. You know, because I'd say a lot of people, whether you have a pet project or you're working for an enterprise, you're probably deploying to, you know, big iron AMD stuff.
Right.
So I guess I would like to circle back and just say, you know, specifically for running on, you know, a Raspberry Pi or even on the new Macs.
I'm gonna say
Now the M2 or whatever they are.
Right.
It could be useful.
So, and my one counter thought to that is, right. So I do agree, like especially large enterprises that we're used to, they're probably not running their apps on Raspberry Pis, right? But for certain, you know, businesses and sectors where they're running on the edge, right? Where they're running on these smaller devices that are, you know, closer to the consumer, closer to whatever, their warehouse, right? So if we think of, you know, a warehousing company and they might have an ARM device that needs to somehow interact with their cluster, I see that use case growing. The little devices that are, you know, it still needs to run something and you want to incorporate that in your cluster and you want to incorporate it how you manage your cluster, you know, with all your EMLN version control and all that. I see that maybe, but the enterprise that, you know, moves a lot slower, more traditional enterprises, I don't think, not as applicable, but
yeah.
Okay.
Well, who says this live stream has to benefit anyone other than ourselves?
Well, what about Windows? Does Buildx allow you to build Windows images? Do we know?
Not a bad question. Go Releaser will build ARM, AMD, and Windows EXEs.
What will?
Go Releaser. I'm familiar with that. And, you know, that all happens from a Linux agent. But I don't know if Docker's... Well, I'm sure Docker's different, but...
Yeah, you can run on that. You can run it on Windows.
Is Windows just the i386 architecture?
Yes, let me go back. Yes. Okay. Then yeah. And
Because
makes
that
sense.
would make Buildx super applicable for pretty much everybody. Yeah,
Right. I mean, it's
It's x86, right? We need old dog slab in the chat. Windows is x86, right? I think that's right.
so.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
gonna try
Windows can run on ARM too. It's more the architecture of the CPU, right? The thing that actually processes the bytecode.
Right.
The OS doesn't matter because the OS can run on any architecture.
You can definitely run Windows on ARM.
Right. Yeah, I don't
So
know.
I guess
And they do
my
call
comment
out, in their
is stupid.
platforms right here,
Mhm.
it is it's an OS paired with the architecture. So I don't know. Great questions. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me go back here. I'm going to try to update the image manually using K9s. I think that's the only time we call it out. For whatever reason, my Helm. You know what? Is it? Whatever. We'll do it here. So I did go back. So previously, talking about it, they didn't provide a correct ARM image, so I had built my own. So before this repo and image were to my personal Docker Hub, but I was able to switch it back, and I believe that this .3 version should have the latest fixes. So we can watch that. Still get the update that a deployment was updated. Pretty cool. It monitors itself. I don't know if I can make this bigger by default. Yeah. Ooh, too big. Too big. So we're getting those updated. Pretty soon it will tell me that its watch has started.
Kind of a neat tool for just if you ever wondered how many different events Kubernetes is sending around, that'll tell you. Just take off all the restrictor plate.
And there we go.
Yeah.
It didn't tell me I had restarted, but it fixed it. So now they, all we did is update to the latest image that built BotCube itself, the Go app, for whatever architecture you're on. They did the Buildx build in their pipeline to create that Docker image that was tagged with the right manifest. And then also, the fix here was just, hey, they were including another binary that was, being called that wasn't ARM compatible. So we updated to that. Now we're pulling down that ARM version of kubectl, and now we can use it.
Makita, we really need that soundboard because he did a, and now it works. And then we could have clicked the button and went like, wow, dude, you did it.
Wow.
Yeah. So any thoughts, questions, anything else we want to see?
Was there anything special you had to do to get it to run on your machine? Or are we building these in Docker? We're building these in GitHub Actions, right? Our images? Or should we contribute back? Let me just fire every question I have. Or should we just contribute back? Or it's already fixed, so we don't have to do it anymore. You're talking about the...
Correct.
Okay. Look at me talk all the way around. Yes.
So, yes. For BotCube, I built the image locally using Buildx, and I pushed it up to my Docker Hub.
Mm-hmm.
Could have gone out there and fixed it. Whatever his name, shout out to Disconnect for fixing that for us.
Thank you, Mr. Disconnect.
Very, very kind, mighty kind. And this is what I did. So this is essentially what I did. I did not make it as fancy or as parameterized as he did. But I pulled down the correct image of the binary from the releases directory. You just swap in the architecture that you want. So I was able to put in arm64 here, download that binary, and that's what I pushed up to my Docker hub. That was for BotCube. For our website, we're using GitHub Actions. So this is what we have here. So there's a few things just to make it easier. They provide these kind of steps, and this is all in their documentation. But you can see that, hey, we're calling out specifically that we want it to run on ARM64. Now, something to note, we don't say AMD, we don't say anything else. So we're just building it for ARM64, which is fine for us, obviously. But it would be cool. I assume this is a comma separated list, or we could make this a list somehow. And it should just build us whatever architectures we want.
Huh. That's interesting. We should be building that for both, just in case somebody wanted to test it locally. We should definitely do that. That's kind of crazy. We can't run the latest version. Come on, Sam.
But and that's where it gets weird, because I'm pretty sure I can just pull the image and run it. Maybe we do it, let me go to GitHub and find one of our latest tags, DevsOperative.com. This is a live demo, so if it doesn't work, whatever.
Now we're off the rails.
Now we're really off the rails.
I did get the WoW working. I tossed one in there.
Yes.
You guys just can't hear it.
I got releases. Actions. So GitHub Actions. And then...
But I can hear it on the stream. Do it again.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. We can hear it on the stream. I was like, what are you nodding to? I don't hear anything.
Thank you.
But that makes sense.
Did you hear it? Did it work?
We also need the what the hell, but this is fine for now. We need the what the hell when this live demo doesn't work. Sorry, Sam. Back to you.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of that, I'm just trying to find where that page is to get the...
Is it releases?
Packages.
Yeah, packages.
It's under packages. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Right, so we've only built this for ARM. I think if we come here, maybe since we're only building one, it doesn't show us the multiple architectures, because this is the other page that I had shown for BotCube that showed multiple architectures. So, I think... I don't know what port we run this on, but if I just do docker pull, if I do docker run, I'm going to hope it's on port 80. So, it's going to pull the image that is specifically for ARM, and I think we can run that docker buildx inspect and see that it's only for ARM. Boom, right there. The requested images platform, Linux ARM64, does not match the detected host platform, Linux AMD. And we didn't request a specific platform. I think that's, also partially because there's only this. So, you wouldn't see this if there was a Linux AMD version available. So it says it's running.
One thing we haven't looked at yet, which I think would be pretty beneficial, because you showed the Docker commands and everything. Could we see the GitHub Actions?
Yes.
How do you put it into practice into a CI/CD workflow?
Yep. Pull up my notes again.
Gotta fix that Rook liveness probe.
Yeah.
That's Slab's problem.
Come on, Slabby.
Right, so this is how we build our website. So we're using GitHub Actions. So every time there's a push to either main or feature DevsOp, star, we do an image build. And so these are the steps. This is the QEMU one. So this sets up the virtualization to create that virtual ARM64 platform that we can then run our Docker build on. You don't see, oh yeah, set up Docker Buildx. So this is just the step that you kind of import to make sure that Docker Buildx is working. Otherwise, we don't specify anywhere else the need of Docker Buildx or anything related to anything else. I think this could be a comma separated list of platforms, and we could build it for AMD, no problem. I'm assuming I got that port wrong or something, because that's not working. But it might just be because it doesn't work. But it was able to pull it down.
Yeah.
So let's try one more thing. So instead of a Docker run, let's do that Docker Buildx inspect. So Docker and Buildx. So somewhere on here, inspect. There is a specific to the image Buildx image tools. I don't know if I have to say that or not, but we will. Image tools inspect. Buildx image tools. So it should inspect that image for us. Oop. And I'm expecting maybe it looks a little different because we only have the one, so it's not showing the list of, hey, if we had built this.
Yeah, but it should say the.
Straw.
Okay.
So let me try this again. All right, go ahead if you were.
No. It seems like it would specify the platform that we at least built it for.
Tmux.
Yeah.
Right. That was odd. Exited Tmux for a second. Right. So I think because I was calling out a specific SHA and not just latest or just this. Okay.
Well, you probably don't have those pulled down, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, no, I mean that's our version is the Git SHA of our repository at that point. So maybe that is right. I don't know why. I mean, it showed us some stuff, but it didn't show us the pretty print of manifests, a platform this, platform that. What we could do is git checkout develop main. So there is our Docker file. So back here, Buildx build platforms. How do we specify it? So if we do a Docker Buildx build platform, AMD, ARM64, ARM v7, change those couple things. Okay, don't quote me on this, but this might work. Or not.
Oh.
We'll pretend like that didn't happen.
For another stream. We'll deal with how to build them for multi. I'm sure. Well, how to inspect, because really we know how to build for multi. It's really interesting, but we haven't confirmed that the website runs on. I mean, the container boots.
Correct.
Container starts, but we don't know what's going on.
And that's where I think if they're, it's only if there are things that the architecture, the differences in the architectures of how they run the executable have some sort of breaking change, or there's some, something about the architecture that doesn't process in the same way that you would specifically need a different, library or whatever. We're talking about like low-level library stuff to make it work, but it could just work.
I think it's awesome. Any questions from the chat? Excellent.
It's happening.
Alright, it just doesn't work on my machine. It works out in GitHub Actions though. I can almost guarantee we'd be able to set that up, but again, another day.
Very good.
I'm done sharing my screen, Nikita, if you want to go back to the 3 panel.
I know how to do that.
Make sure you smash that wow button.
Smash that.
I can do that. I know how to do that. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. I'm pushing my computer hard right now. Boom. Back to interview screen.
I was gonna say, I don't know if we transitioned or not.
It's right during the transition.
That's great. Hopefully someone got something out of this.
I did.
Yeah. If not, refreshed our memories at least. Kind of on that topic, hopefully we'll be opening up our Discord to the community soon. And if you have questions or just want to talk, you could join us there.
Very true. And we have KubeCon coming up. The next stream is Rook, I believe. Was it Rook? Was the next stream Rook?
Or is it Harbor? One of the two.
I don't remember.
Well, I think we're butting up in against the pre-streams for.
I think we have one before the pre-stream.
Okay.
Checking the calendar. On the Notion calendar, I see Harbor for the 29th. So,
okay. We are doing a stream. Yes. Yeah, so then Harbor is next week, followed by a pre-stream for KubeCon. Woo! Very excited for KubeCon. Can't wait. It's going to be very, very exciting. And I have very powerful what are they? N95 masks.
Uh-huh.
Right here, actually. I ordered them for the whole team. KN95. Did a lot of research. And they're black, so we're going to look super fly.
Fashion statement.
Fashion statement. Okay, well, that was the stream for the day. Were there any questions left in the stream?
So we had somebody follow. Thanks for the follow. I'm not a moderator, so I can't go back and see but I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully that showed up on stream.
I think it was me.
It wasn't you.
Oh. Anyways, that's cool.
It wasn't me, huh? Let's take a look. Hold on. Let's replay the follow. Who was it? It was a minute ago. We got Yakulen 182. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Very excited. And actually, an hour ago, we got Freddie Lacance.
Just Freddie.
Replaying that too.
Freddie's good.
And one last thing, we are upgrading our stream equipment. So hopefully it will run just a little bit better, because every single time we try to do this, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. I'll be honest. Like, we practice it ahead of time. We're like, yeah, this is working great. It's going to be good. And then, we get ready 30 minutes before, and it takes us like half an hour to 45 minutes to get everything up and running. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, new equipment, probably by the next stream, actually. Next Wednesday, we'll have a new streaming rig, hopefully. So, thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time for Harbor.
Have a great week.
Thank you.
Have a
It's
great week.
going to be a good week.